Hey, I'm Travis. Welcome to the conversation. We've got a really great topic lined up for today, and that's going to be employee experience, user experience, but ultimately really what it boils down to is about people and humans, because ultimately you're trying to facilitate a connection between one human and another. And those two people are making a connection to do something that creates an output. And hopefully, we hope that output then has a wonderful business outcome that is valuable and is repeatable, and it does all the wonderful things that we want it to do. So I want to kind of start on what is important to each of you as we look into what's happened, the change that's happened. A lot has changed. A lot of expectations, a lot of habits have changed with individuals who are connecting digitally. So in the midst of that change and what we're needed to do moving forward in order to get things like efficiency and productivity, what is going to be important to you and your teams that are going to drive your activity and drive what you do looking into this year and into next year when it comes to experience?
Yeah, so I'll start. I think, we've been on this transformation journey at VMware, I think, for a number of years. But what's been interesting is coming out of the pandemic, I think a lot of people really, took an opportunity to really think about, is this the thing I want to be doing? Do I, career changes?
It was very existential.
It was, people moved during the pandemic and made lots of life decisions based on, what they were going through. And so I think when I think about employee experience, I think at the end of the day, people really want to be able to make an impact in whatever they're doing. They want to know that when they come into work every day, whether that's at home in their home office or they're going into, a physical office location.
Yeah, but they've got a suit on or they've got their fuzzy pants.
Exactly.
They want to make an impact.
Yeah, soft pants, suit, doesn't matter. They want to know that they're making an impact. So when I think about employee experience, and again, we've been on this journey for years and we often would talk about how do we remove friction? Right? From people being able to get their work done, whether that's processes, whether that's the technology itself. But I think, given where we are at now and people really wanting to make that impact, we have to, amp up our game because it's not just about I think we have to get out of our silos is really what it comes down to. We have to be willing to partner more with other organizations within the company to be able to really drive not just the experience that we've typically been responsible for within our own, say, silo, if you will, but the end-to-end employee experience. So everything from, HR, the day that you onboard, yes. All the process, the paperwork that you need to fill out, the training that you need to do, all the things, setting up your laptop, there's so many different pieces. Because
that is a really essential part of the whole employee experience. The moment you touch a piece of hardware or a piece of software, that's the beginning of that journey too. And that's what fascinates me. How did each of you sort of get out of that silo and start connecting with other teams to be able to create a holistic or a more, it's holy grail, a more holistic experience for those who are working within the domain?
Well, I'll answer a couple different ways, but I first want to just start by thanking you and your team. So I was one of those people that made that choice, right? During the pandemic, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? I was in banking for, 17, 18 years. So during the pandemic, I actually left banking and I started working at VMware.
There was a period in a monastery on top of a mountain where you were meditating.
I was levitating actually.
And then you realized
VMware.
Pam has something for me.
Pam and her team it was such a pleasurable onboarding experience. I got to tell you, and I came from a really big bank where things moved just at a different pace, very slowly. I was productive like minute one, not even day one, minute one. It was such a refreshing experience. So thank you. It works. I'm giving you some testimony here. Yeah.
See, it's always good. When people, especially who are maybe not be front and center all the time, get some attention for having things just go right instead of, not fixing something, not maybe creating something new and magical, but just I'll tech email the CIO sometimes and say, hey, the Wi-Fi is great. Just want to say doing a good job.
It's like a thankless job otherwise, right? But you talked about, you mentioned the word friction. I think it was you. And that was frictionless for me. And I was immediately at ease and I was effective or started to be effective, get effectivity, earlier than I would otherwise. So thank you for that. So through my lens, which is the data world, we want to build that frictionless experience as well. Over the last, 20, 25 years, data is growing exponentially, right? It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And
it's kind of the elephant in the room. Nobody's really thinking about it.
Oh yeah. It's incredible. And the people, the audience, right? Our colleagues are becoming more and more data savvy, right? People out there are, you sort of like take the base level of understanding of data today compared to, 20 years ago when I first started in the industry. The folks today could have been like expert data analysts back then, right? Mm-hmm. So the bar has been raised. The need for data, right? The need to access data, the need for better tools to mine their data and look at their data in different ways. The bar has been raised on that as well. So my team, what I'm trying to do is, as best I can, is provide, first of all, the data access, some of the data forms that people need to make their job easier. And when I don't, I hear about it, right? And rightfully so.
It's tough because you want to create that, like you said, frictionless experience. Because like, for example, one of the great examples of if someone used a credit card and it took 5 minutes for them to use that credit card and they had to go through firewalls and they had to use their RSA, fob and all this, people would figure out another way to pay for things.
Absolutely.
So you want to make the right thing, the easy thing. And how do you do that?
Yeah. So, we look at data as like sort of like a map, right? You have entry points to this area. One of the things that we're really focused on right now is moving data up in the data supply chain. Right. And when I say data, what do you mean by that? So when I say data supply chain, let's say we have a new customer that's coming in, right? Let's say they're having a very SaaS experience, right? They want to just log in. Don't talk to any salesperson, right? They log in, they get access to whatever hyperscaler, platform they're on, and they're off. Well, I need to make it almost like we were talking earlier, like a credit card transaction. How difficult would it be if they had to do 10 steps to go, like you had to do 10 steps to buy something with a credit card? Like it's not going to work. There's going to be leakage and other ways around it.
The people behind you in line are going to get really upset.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't want anyone to get yelled at. But one of the things we want to do is we want to enable not just our colleagues, but our customers to make intelligent choices, with the right data when they first engage us. And it's as simple as, what's your address? Let's validate the address.
Yes.
If you put, Palo Alto, Missouri, I don't know if there might be one that exists, but probably not. Yeah. We need to tell them that right away, like, hey, this isn't going to work. So giving them a very Googly-like experience of sort of becoming our customer, a very easy way of becoming our customer is one of our priorities. Another is, and it's not something that people like to, it's sort of like brush your teeth or going to the doctor or exercising. We need to have better data hygiene, right? Mm-hmm. So putting these controls and standards in place at the time we capture the data really pays off in dividends, because you try to correct that data once it's in the system, once it's on the map, it becomes exponentially harder.
Yes. Garbage in, garbage out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a problem.
Can I just on this point about data, I think it's super important, because when I think about employee experience, I think where we've maybe gotten caught up a little bit in the past is we assume we know what our colleagues need and want, and we go do the thing.
Exactly.
And we're able to take the experience so far doing that. But where we really, I think, can make an impact is when we actually look at the data and make decisions based on the data. Listening to our colleagues about what they want and what they need versus assuming we know. So I think that's critically important to taking employee experience to the next level.
Or I can make something really, really cool. This is going to be really fun. It's going to be great. Watch it. And you put it out into the field and nobody uses it. You're like, well, why did they use it?
Why did I do it?
Yeah. Well, what problem you're solving? Well, I wasn't solving a problem. I was making something really cool. And I thought everyone would think it was cool.
Why don't you think it's great?
Does everyone think it's great? So I think you both are looking at it through a people lens, which I think is that really critical way of formulating what problem you're trying to solve. I always like to say, who's it for and what's it for? And by asking those questions, you can see, you look through that lens, and all of a sudden, all the different decisions you need to make along the decision, train and the project and the designing start to make sense, because you are looking at it through who's it for and what's it for. And like you said, if you gather the information, you know what the end user wants, you know it's for them, but you know what's it for if you're asking the right questions. How they do it? Where are they when they do it? What are the context? And what are their experience within that context? Are they at work? Are they in a library? Are they in the office? And what are those different contexts? How do you look at context, whether it's from a customer perspective or from an employee perspective? How do you look at context of what they're doing, how they're doing, where they are in their journey, and how you're addressing sort of what they need and what that experience is being built around.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but in my mind, it's really straightforward, right? It's really easy. It's at the end of the day, I think if we can provide a really good experience to our colleagues, I think that we're demonstrating that we care about them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And as soon as we lead with that, it doesn't matter where they are, what they're asking for, what challenges they're bringing us. If we think about, just that concept of, when they walk away, they feel like we care about them. We've listened to them. I think that's the core. Like, to me, that is really what it's all about.
It's a digital empathy.
It absolutely is.
It's funny because I was talking about Jason.
That, yeah.
Jason Conyer and I were having a conversation musing over that. We're like, empathy. Well, this is sort of a digital expression of empathy. So there's digital empathy because you're not there. You can't be there and say, hey, I care. But you can create an experience through a digital experience, through a digital interaction that says we care. And it feels like it's been thoughtful.
Absolutely. I think about this a lot when I go out in the world and I go, different businesses that I walk into and I have some kind of an experience. And when I walk away, I think, does this business actually, do they want me here? Like, if they treated me badly, I'm like, I'm not coming back here. What am I going to come back here for? I'm going to go somewhere where they treat me well and I feel like they care about me. And I think translated to the workplace, I am going to really want to do my best work and be committed to the company I work for if I feel like they care about me.
Yes.
And so to me, that's the critical element.
So you're the ambassadors of digital empathy.
Yeah. I like that.
I'm gonna take that away. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fabulous. And so sort of taking the next level, because it's easy to talk about creating great experiences and doing it through, digital means and looking at it through a people lens and knowing the customer. What are some of the ways where, because it is challenging, because going around, especially, you can't scale an effort of figuring out what every single person wants. You have to scale that, you have to aggregate that effort to be able to create an understanding. It's tough to be able to implement something, especially across multiple different phases of a journey, of a digital journey, just like you were talking about at the beginning of the show, where, hey, I don't control all the different touch points. What were some of those challenges that you started running into and some of the creative ways that you worked with others or thought outside of sort of the normal silos and ways of doing things that kind of helped you move in the direction of creating those better experiences?
So yeah, I'll go ahead and start if you don't mind. Yeah. So go back to what I was saying earlier in our discussion is that need for data and people want it. So one for me is how do I provide clean, easy access to the data or the data assets people need, and presenting that in such a way that it's they don't have to have a PhD in our data ecosystem to find that, right? So one of the things we've done and we're improving on right now is creating what we call a digital marketplace, right? You go into a store, it's organized. You can go into any supermarket across the United States and you're going to know it's all set up basically the same way. There's aisles and there's shelves and things are cataloged. We're taking the same approach to data, right? So from our colleagues or whoever, that comes into our data store, we should provide that same type of organized clarity around where they can find our data assets to meet their needs. And I think that sort of goes back to what you were saying earlier, Pam, is that it shows that you care. Right. We've produced this stuff. We've put our time, our resources, our money to produce this stuff. We should treat it in such a respectful way to show respect to our colleagues and our customers. So that's one of the things that we're doing is producing this data store. So people can go and sort of fish for themselves. Mm-hmm. Right.
But not just creating sort of a dumping ground. We're like, oh yeah, the data's over there.
Right.
I'm like, where? It's all over there.
It's in that pile over there. I know where it is.
It's there. You just go look around. You can find it. No, but actually, when you come in, like you said, like maybe you're like in an Apple store, and the experience is this very elegant, very beautiful, experience where you don't feel intimidated when you come in. Because if you come in and it feels intimidating, like I need a degree in data science to be able to go through and do, low code queries for this data versus I have a nice user interface, a nice user experience where I don't feel intimidated. I feel like I'm welcome into the space.
Absolutely. And once you start to build those muscles and that discipline, you can start to really serve at scale, right? Mm-hmm. Now you could serve, not just one business unit or one group, but the entirety of VMware with relative ease.
Yeah. What are some of those tough pain points though for scaling though? Because I imagine it's not just, hey, swipe a credit card, go on VMC on AWS and go and spin up some more stuff. Like what's that scaling like out, especially with a maintaining a good user experience at scale? Yeah,
there's a couple of different aspects of that, right? One is sort of, I say, I've used this for years. You want to turn off the faucet and drain the swamp, right? Mm-hmm. We have a lot of data assets out there today, right? So how do we how do we have control around the new assets that are landing in our ecosystem? And how do we clear out the assets that are no longer relevant or old or aged out or just
I'll give you some example. What are some of the assets that they're hosting?
I'm thinking about dashboards, reports, even tables, right? So you could have multiple sets of customer data. Which one is right? Mm-hmm. So I need to be able to certify as the owner of the data to provide a certification that this data is kosher, right? Yeah. It's good to use. So those are some challenges that we have is sort of, how do we rationalize the existing ecosystem and then put controls around how we introduce new assets to that ecosystem?
Yeah, and I think, again, the data is so critical, right? And I just think another aspect when I think about employee experience is also the communication. So we're collecting all this data. Some of it's through surveys, some of it's through different, there's a lot of different ways that we collect data. But then what do we do with it? And if we're asking our colleagues, like, hey, what is it that you want or need? Or, asking them about particular services maybe that we offer as an organization, and they're giving us feedback. If it's just sitting dead somewhere in a database, like, how's that helping?
Yes.
And then you get to a point where
data goes to die.
Exactly. Data goes to die, right? So then, eventually at some point people be like, they're asking, but they don't really care. It's back to the caring.
Yeah.
You demonstrate you care by saying, okay, thank you for giving me this data. Now here's what I'm going to do with it. And it doesn't mean, we're trying to make everybody happy and, I don't know, like at VMware, we typically have had a reputation for, in the past anyway, of allowing people to kind of do what they want, like, flexibility and choice to the extreme. So it's not about giving everybody at all with, everything they want. It's about, again, collecting the data, looking at where can we make the biggest impact, but then being really thoughtful about how we share that back with our colleagues about, hey, we're going to, do these three things or 5 things or whatever. And this is why. And by the way, we're not going to do these other things. And this is why. And I think that's really important because otherwise I think we, lose credibility.
Yes.
And again, I think we'll eventually hit a wall with that transformation that we're trying to do. So,
I think trust has been sort of the big theme throughout
building
the conversations.
Trust, yes.
People trust when they go someplace, they trust that they're going to be welcome there, they're going to have a good experience there. That means they're going to want to come back again. Like you're saying, making the right thing,
absolutely,
be the easy thing, be the less friction thing. Well, Travis, Pam, this has been a fabulous conversation. I appreciate both of you coming on the CIO Exchange podcast. If people want to learn more about what you do, what you're working on, what's coming up, what's next, where can they find you? Go online, get more information. What can they do?
I'm on LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also the CIO Exchange, right? They can find us there.
There you go.
There you go.
We'll find each of you on the CIO Exchange.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.